Hi, good morning, and welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. This is episode 488, and we are here live in Southwest Florida. This is the second attempt at episode 488. Last night, I tried to do the podcast live at a beautiful sunset at the beach, and YouTube or Verizon or somebody wouldn't participate. And this morning, my YouTube app has crashed twice while trying to go live. So I don't know what that's going to mean either, but I'm here. It's working so far, so let's see what happens. Good morning, Grace and Twanisha and Melissa. Thanks for joining live. Good morning, Lily. Happy Friday, everybody. Hi, Naomi and Judy and Carol. Good morning. Hi, Carrie and Joe. Hi, Grace and Cherie. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Like I was saying in the beginning, not only did episode 488 not happen last night because of technical difficulties at the beach, but I've had technical difficulties here this morning as well with my app crashing twice already. So can't guarantee that we'll make it the 30 minutes, but so far so good. Good morning, Barbara and Sandshell. Thanks for joining live. Let's see, are we going to be able to see that over there? Oh, maybe we'll get to that. Welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. This is episode 488, 12 away from 500. So crazy and exciting. Thanks for joining me live. If you're live, please say hello and let me know if you have any questions or if you want to tell me anything at all. If you end up watching the recorded version, which I know most of you do, please also feel welcome to say hello and leave me any sort of comments or questions in the comments because I get notified about those all day as well. This is episode 488, which was originally scheduled for last night, but we've been having technical difficulties. Good morning, Rita and Jane, and having technical difficulties again this morning, but for some reason, we are still live. Thanks, Twanisha. I'm wearing, one of my favorite tank top dresses in the world. This is one from my Amazon shop. This is in the medium violet color. But what an easy piece to throw on, and it can be dressed up or styled in so many different ways with different shawls and vests and different other handmade items as well as jewelry. So many ways to dress these up. I'm afraid I've been working already this morning and got so distracted while I was working that you notice I have no accessories on. I didn't wear earrings or wear anything handmade over the dress, but it's also fun to be able to show you the dress and in its entirety by itself too. And I'm working on exciting things behind the scenes that you guys are going to love. So I don't feel too guilty when I'm working on stuff for my business when I get distracted in the background, because it's stuff that you'll be able to enjoy eventually as well. Thanks, Twanisha. I love this dress. It comes in a gazillion colors, and I own at least 6 colors, I think. Oh, not as many anymore. I think I got bleach on one of them. Does anybody else do that? Does anybody else love to clean with bleach but sometimes forget to change their clothes first? I'm usually pretty good about it. Like, I will strip down to underwear to clean with bleach, or I will put on rag-like clothes or pajama rag-like clothes most of the time, but once in a while I'll say, oh, I'm going to be careful, it'll be fine. It never is. I don't know how, but I can always get bleach on what I'm wearing if it's not bleach friendly clothing. So even though the podcast got canceled last second because of technical difficulties, I still posted 4 videos last night, so I don't know if you got notified about them, and if you didn't, please let me encourage you to go back and watch them when the podcast is over. I released a new Create Zen with Kristin video to show you the sunset that we missed because of the podcast being canceled. So you can watch the sunset still from last night. It was magnificent. And then when I got home, I did some more stitch tutorial videos for the Crochet Stitch Library playlist on my YouTube channel. And I'm going to be working on it. I'm going to have a lot of focus on it right now, partly because the new PDF download and the new booklet that's coming out for 88 crochet stitches with the symbols listed as well as the glossary definitions. Once I created that and am now publishing it, I realized that my Crochet Stitch Library playlist of videos on stitches only has 45 videos, and I went, oh, then it's time to update that too. So it really needs to have all 88 stitches in there, and I had the best of intentions when I started it, and those videos are amazing. I love the format that I use for those videos. So within the 2 or 3 minute video, it is all exclusively the one stitch the video is about. So at first you'll see a very up close right hand tutorial with audio telling you what you're doing for the stitch, then shown in left hand, and then without audio so you can just focus on it in slow motion. You can see the stitch in its entirety in slow motion as well. It is a wonderful tutorial for whatever stitch you want to learn. And before last night there were 45 videos. Now there are 48, because as I'm going through and comparing the 88 stitch dictionary to the Crochet Stitch Library video playlist, I'm matching up to make sure that all of those stitches are represented in video format, and it's just going to take me some time to do it. But last night I created the swatches for 3 different types of linked crochet stitches to talk about on the podcast, which didn't happen, but then also to make the tutorial videos for afterwards. So this morning I brought those 3 swatches with me so that we can talk about them, and I got a wonderful question. So we're at 48 and there's 88, so there's only 40 to go. But got a wonderful question on one of the videos this morning. What in the world do you do with a linked crochet stitch? And that is a fabulous question. And I'm gonna have a sip and then I'll start talking about that. Hi Wanda, thanks for joining live. Good morning, Marcia. First of all, has anybody here worked with linked crochet stitches before? I have. I have projects in Crochet So Fine. The book Crochet So Fine has linked crochet projects in it. Judy has. Cherie has not. Some people call link stitches the segue between regular crochet and Tunisian crochet, and I can see where that description comes from, but I don't really look at it like that for a couple of reasons. I mean, I can see how it kind of looks like that, but it's really not where my mind goes when I think about link stitches, because because one of the things that I really like about it that's different than Tunisian is it doesn't give you that really bulky backside of the fabric. What I like about linked crochet is here's the right side, here's the wrong side. It looks a lot more like traditional crochet because it has a respectable right and wrong side where you could use this as a 2-sided fabric, something that's you show on both sides. Whereas Tunisian, I don't feel that way unless you go into like super lacy, and obviously there are exceptions to every rule, but in general, I think Tunisian can be very limited unless you're going super drapey. I think it can be really limited because of that backside. But here are some of the ways that it is similar though. It is a dense fabric, and it also creates what I like to call an opaque fabric. And what I mean by opaque, what stitch is this? Okay, that's gonna work. Here's a great example. Here's double crochet regular. I just happen to have a swatch of double crochet regular. And see those holes? So let's say you're making a top and it's gonna go over your bust area, and it's got those holes in it. you might want to wear a shirt underneath that, right? Because it's going to really, you're going to see texture of bra through those holes. But here's double crochet link stitch. Look at how much more opaque that is. There are no holes between the stitches. Can you see the difference between those? See the holes in here? They don't exist in the link stitches, and I'll show you why when we do a quick demo on it. But if you really want to see an up-close demo of the stitches, please watch the videos on it. It's really interesting. And it's a really wonderful stitch to add to your repertoire, and we'll talk about that in a minute, about what the different types of projects that I think this is fabulous for. But first of all, it is a fabulous stitch because of its opacity, and I say it opacity, not density, because it is not a ton more dense like Tunisian would be. Here's double crochet in Be So Baby yarn regular, and here it is in link stitches. It's a little more dense, but it still has a lot of bend and movement to it. If we were looking at Tunisian side by side with this, and I can do a swatch for that for Monday, and we can do all three together, it would be a lot more dense than that, and it wouldn't have a back side that you could let be seen in a project. Okay, so here are the three different stitches I did in link stitch for video tutorials last night. I did half double crochet. There's half double crochet. Here's double crochet. And here's treble crochet. And so I did one row, turned my work, and did one row in the opposite direction. So you end up seeing right and wrong side alternating in the rows because of the nature of working in rows. If you were working in rounds, you would only see front side facing, whichever row that is. And you can see on the treble crochet most predominantly, the right side row is the row that has horizontal bars in it. Can you see that? And I think that's where people compare it to Tunisian crochet, because it has those horizontal bars. And that's where you work what you would traditionally call the yarn over portions of a stitch. Instead of yarn overing, you're picking up into those horizontal bars. And I'll show you on the Tunisian crochet real quick to give you an idea. But before we do that, I wanted to talk about why. Why do we use this stitch? This stitch is fantastic for anything that you don't want holes in, because even the nature of crochet, it has holes in the fabric even when you're doing a solid stitch like double crochet. So imagine if you're trying to make the warmest hat, right? You would want link stitches right here across the ears so that no wind gets in, or even the whole hat for that matter. A cowl, a scarf, something that you wear on the coldest of winter days would be that much warmer and that much more cozy if it didn't have holes for the wind to get through. So I think extreme cold weather gear, and maybe not even extreme, cold weather gear is a wonderful application for link stitches. Mittens, gloves, fingerless gloves would all be wonderful reasons for using a link stitch as well. I think anything that you would want to be a little more durable, obviously if it has less room and less holes, it could be more durable. This is much quicker than single crochet, yes, and I could linked single crochet ends up being pretty much the same thing as linked half double crochet. It ends up being the same technique, so I think it's debatable whether it's its own stitch or not, but fingerless gloves, absolutely. So anything for cold weather gear is amazing with linked double crochet. And honestly, or half double or treble or double treble or triple treble, doesn't matter. And the good news is whatever pattern you have for any of those stitches, you can easily just substitute the linked version and it doesn't affect it at all. Yes, you can do it in the round. I've made several hats with linked stitches before, and you absolutely can do it in the round, no problem. It's very, very easy to interchange this with regular stitches. The next item I wanted to mention, the one hat that I did for Crochet So Fine book that was done with link stitches was the brim of a sun hat. So there's another place where you would prefer to not have holes, right? So the whole hat is lacy, but then the brim is done in link stitches, and then you get that much more shade protection. So just the opposite of what we were talking about with cold weather gear. You don't want the wind in. Well, maybe not opposite, but with that you don't want the wind in. But in the warm months, you wouldn't want the sun in. So it's both ways are really wonderful applications of the stitch. Home deck. This would be great for placemats, washcloths, rugs, any of those types of projects that you would want to have in solid stitch format as well. It would work for any of those. What else? And anything that you want an opaque texture to. So let's say you're making a lacy top, a summery lacy top, but you want the stitches to be solid through the bust. Use link stitches from here to here and then unlink them and do them regular for the lower body and the sleeves. Gorgeous. You could do the whole thing in simple stitches, not even involve lace, but by linking them and not linking them and having that contrast, you would have an opaque and lacy look all within just using simple stitches. Isn't that great? So those are a few examples. I'm sure if we talked about it longer, I'd come up with more too, but I think that'll give you a good basic understanding of how you could apply this stitch. And honestly, when the podcast is over, go watch the videos, grab some yarn and a hook, and just give it a try. I think you're gonna love it. It's totally the same, but different than what you're used to doing. All right, Hortense, I can't read that all the way, says this is stirring up ideas. Cherie says she's excited. Yeah, bath mat, I mentioned rugs. Yes, absolutely. Rugs, bath mats would be wonderful. Washcloths, dishcloths, hats, scarves, cowls. Does anybody have any other questions? Great, Barbara's going to try it too. Yeah, so when the podcast is over, pop back over to, yes, hot pads, wonderful, and doubled up even better. Yeah, and actually replaces the need for, in that respect, it would replace the need for felting too, because it is more dense. If you doubled that, you would have definitely something very durable for hot pads. You could do tapestry crochet in this, but I think that not in single crochet, because like I said, single crochet is a little more like half double. This is what half double looks like. But like the tapestry bag that we made a couple months ago, that was done in double crochet. You could absolutely, where's the swatch for that one? You could absolutely replace those stitches with linked double crochet and change colors in the exact same way we changed colors, and you would just get a more dense bag. There is no issue about yarn substitution when you go from a stitch to its counterpart in link stitch. Well, you probably affect your row gauge. Let me retract that statement. But for on a bag, it wouldn't be an issue. For garments, it would be an issue, so you would definitely want to do a gauge swatch and block it and make sure that you're happy with the way the gauge turns out. God forbid you made the upper body of a top and it was too tight and you couldn't get it over your head. So if it's a garment that you're substituting link stitches for regular stitches, and do a gauge swatch first. But if it's to make a scarf or a dishcloth or a washcloth or something, just play around with the yarn and see if you even like it. We'll wait and see if there's more questions about that or anything else. Let's see, where's my crochet hook? A link single crochet would not make anything looser, but because of the nature of linking the stitches, it ends up being the same technique as linked half double crochet. You're welcome, Cherie. I love this stitch, and I especially love it on the longer stitches for a couple of reasons. It's fast, and it creates a dense stitch that you would normally not be able to do in traditional stitches because especially with the larger the stitch that you make, the more loosey-goosey the fabric gets. Because they're long, there's that space between the two. So once you go into the longer stitches, it's a wonderful way to make a solid fabric with longer stitches. And what's one reason why we like longer stitches? Because they're faster than the shorter stitches, right? So this is an incredible shortcut for getting a opaque or more dense fabric with taller stitches that is still a relatively quick project. So I'm going to show you a quick demo on the linked treble crochet, but seriously, take a look at the tutorial videos that I made. They're going to be way better than this, but I can definitely show you a little bit. So we're going to start with a chain 4, and we're going to count that as our first stitch for treble crochet. We're going to insert our hook into the second chain from our hook, pull up a loop, skip one chain, insert our crochet hook in the next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. We have 3 loops on our hook, turn our work, skip the first stitch in because that chain 4 counted as the first stitch, insert our crochet hook in the next stitch. We now have 4 loops on our hook, just like we would if we yarn over twice. In fact, let me finish this stitch and I'll show you first the regular one first. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And there's our first linked treble crochet. So just as a quick refresher, let's do a regular treble crochet. Regular treble crochet is yarn over twice, insert your hook in the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now, when we're linking the stitches, and see there we have that space between the stitches now that we don't have when we link them. So we'll insert our crochet hook in the first horizontal bar on the previous stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert our hook into the next horizontal bar on the same previous stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert our hook in the next stitch, where we work our stitches on the row below, yarn over, pull up a loop. We now have 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So this is a great contrast. Look at the space that would have been between the stitches from a traditional stitch, and look at how they're fused together once you link them. Isn't that great? So now we'll do another stitch. Notice I no longer need to yarn over twice to do a treble crochet. I insert my hook in the first horizontal bar and pull up a loop, insert my hook in the next horizontal bar and pull up a loop, and those 2 loops are the equivalent of my yarn over twice. Insert my hook into the next stitch on the previous row, yarn over, pull up a loop. We now have our 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Now lift the camera up now and show you. Oh, Barbara's never seen this before either. God, it's so fun when I can. Oh, look at that. If you did link stitches and did one regular stitch, look at that. We've got a buttonhole now. That would make a great buttonhole as well. We're just adding to the list of reasons to use linked stitches here. Isn't that great though? The only thing that I would say is, we're all creatures of habit, right? So if you're used to doing that yarn over twice or yarn over 1 time and double crochet, you'll catch yourself when you're trying to do a project, when you're going quickly. I just finished making a hat in linked double crochet. That's gorgeous and you're going to love it. And in the middle of the project, I kept catching myself yarn overing first, just because I'm a creature of habit. No, this is linked. Don't need to yarn over first, need to insert your hook into the horizontal bar instead. But makes a wonderful, wonderful dense fabric. Not dense, opaque, which it's not nearly as dense as Tunisian crochet and doesn't have that bumpy back side. It has a nice smooth back side, which makes it wonderful for garments, wonderful for accessories where you see both sides of your project. A Mobius, a cowl, a scarf, a hat. But if you're making garments with it, I do believe that it affects the stitch gauge. I do believe that it makes your fabric more dense across the row. So I would, if you're substituting this for an existing pattern, I would definitely do a gauge swatch. And if you're designing something, obviously you would want a gauge swatch as well for making a garment. But if you just want to get started and practice it, pop back to my YouTube channel page And then if you look at the most recent uploads right before this episode 488 of Create, Share, Inspire podcast, the last previous 3 videos that I uploaded, all 3 of them last night, was linked half double crochet tutorial, linked double crochet tutorial, and linked treble crochet tutorial. And once you get there, if you haven't seen the Crochet Stitch Library playlist before, those are 3 of 48 videos that you can bookmark or save to have a great resource page for how to do all sorts of stitches. If you ever get caught in a pattern and forget how to do something, they are great reminders. Whether you're right-hand crocheter, left-hand crocheter, or if you really want to see that slowed down, slow motion video. I know a lot of people really like that when they're learning. Does anybody have any other questions? I'm going to stay looking at the camera now so I don't miss anything. It's impossible when the camera is down when I'm doing a tutorial. So if your comments or questions were important, please feel welcome to repeat it. But if I don't get to it, please absolutely feel invited to leave your questions or comments in the recorded version of the podcast, because that's when they stay and I get notified so that I have an opportunity to really read them all the way through and reply to you. And those of you that are just curious about other people's questions and answers, because we're all more alike than we are different, you are always welcome to come back to the podcast later in the day and read those comments as well. Most of them are friendly, and a lot of them have questions that are good questions that I answer that anybody would be interested in. Once in a while, I don't answer the questions immediately, and that's only because I think it's good information for the podcast. So for example, this morning I got a comment or question about why or when would you use linked stitches, and so I saved that question for answering on the air because I knew that that was a really great question that would apply to just about anybody that's interested in linked double crochet or linked stitches and has never used them before. I feel like a lot of people enjoyed this morning, so I'm happy to see that. There's a lot of construction going on in the neighborhood again this morning. I'm really getting annoyed by the fact that the beach is difficult and the backyard is difficult. Like, what's up with all of this? I just want a peaceful place to do a live stream podcast. I know you guys do too. Okay, lots of people saying that that was helpful, wonderful. Hi Gay, thanks for joining live. If you're new to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe so you can be part of our community on a regular basis. And once you subscribe with the big red subscribe button, you'll be notified, well, you'll get emails when I have new videos or I go live. If you click that bell button next to the subscribe button, you'll also be notified with pop-ups on your phone or notified through email when I go live and when I have new videos up, which I know is really fun for a lot of people. So I would recommend doing that as well. And also remember that we have a pre-chat in the 30 minutes prior to the podcast, and that way you can get to know other wonderful people in our community. I know everybody enjoys that pre-chat room very much, and then that ends when I do go live after when the podcast starts. What else? I don't know, there's more, but there's always more, and there's a bunch of links in the video description, so if you want to find me on other social media or find other things related to the podcast or things that I talk about on the podcast or products or what have you, all of that's linked in every video description. So if you ever feel interested, please click that little arrow button and it opens up the video description, and you'll see lots of wonderful links in there as well. I saw a long comment about Tunisian crochet, and I could not get to it, so if you want to ask your question again in the recorded version, I will try to read it better there. If somebody would like to pick a number between 1 and 5, I will randomly pick a inspirational quote from one of the Create, Share, Inspire notebooks, and we will go from there. Number 3. Number 3. Ooh, this is a nice one. This is a Chinese proverb. A flower in the heart blossoms on the surface. I love this. It makes me think of good vibes and your aura and glowing from within and all that good stuff. When there's something happy and exciting going on the inside, it shows to everyone else on the outside. Even if it doesn't show physically, everybody can just get a sense of it. And I love that. And it's something that I consciously pay attention to and really try to focus my life around. I want to be remembered. When I'm long gone, I want to be remembered as that bubbly person that people remember that glowed from the inside. That would always be, I think that's always been one of my goals. I just have always wanted to be that person. Nice to hear that I'm not the only one and that it's been a thought for a very long time. So thanks to this Chinese proverb, I'll read it again. A flower in the heart blossoms on the surface. What a great reminder so that we can make our choices to intend to be the person we want to be. And I know it's so hard to remember when you're busy and you've got lists and commitments and responsibilities, but when we can take those few minutes to slow down for a little bit and remember who's that person you want to be, right? I want to be that person that's remembered as being bubbly and that glows with happiness from the inside. And the only way to do that is find a way for me to be happy on the inside, which can be a challenge at times. I know we all feel that way, not just me. So if you need to go look in the mirror, if you need to just sit down and have some 5 quiet minutes by yourself, think about who's the person that you want to be. Who's the person you want to be remembered as? And maybe make a choice at one point today to do something that that person would do, right? I sometimes think of it in terms of my 7-year-old self. When I was a kid, I was called Chrissy, not Kristin. And I always ask myself, what would Chrissy do? And that usually gets me to think a little more light than the adult Kristin thinks. Anyway, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes here with me. I hope you enjoyed the sunrise, the tutorial, the chat about link stitches. Please come back and watch the link stitch tutorials. I think you're going to absolutely love them. If you have any questions, please feel welcome to leave them for me in the comments. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I'll see you Monday. Bye.